Well, everybody, it is my absolute pleasure to now introduce to you our Vice Chairman and President of Strategic Growth here at Mastercard, Jon Huntsman. Welcome, Jon.
Thank you. Thanks, Jody. I appreciate that. That sounds very impressive, but it just means that I'm a fellow team member with some remarkable people, some of whom are in this room.
Leading an incredible team here at Mastercard. Jon, you said something in the very beginning when you started to run our group. You said, listen, this is strategic growth. So let's talk about what that means. You said strategic growth is that which is pivotal and how we now work together as one to really make these things happen. And so then in strategic growth, we get to do wonderful things like partner with governments and public institutions all around the world to do things that are commercial, but to also drive inclusivity, sustainability. And it's just an incredible place for us to be. We get to do wonderful things like this, speaking with all of you and connecting today. And it is such a pleasure to have you here with us in the room and also here at Mastercard. A little bit about Jon, if I may, before we get into the Q&A. So Jon, you have been busy. That's probably a little bit of an understatement, but I'm going to share a little bit of your experience here as U.S. Ambassador to Singapore, China, and Russia under both administrations. The Deputy U.S. Trade Representative working on dozens of deals across Africa and Asia. Twice elected governor of Utah. And not to mention your incredible work in the private sector. So as vice chairman of the Ford Motor Company, and now also on the executive board of the Ford Motor Company and also Chevron. And just incredible. And can I also add that in all the spare time that Jon has, he's a musician. He loves motocross. And Jon, you are a force for good. And we are delighted to have you here today.
Thank you, Joda. You made me sound like somebody special, which I am not.
A rock star. A rock star by any account. So listen, I think then, given that background, it would be so great just to start this conversation with hearing from you. How has the week been? What are you taking away? What's resonating? What are you sort of validating? What are you bringing back with you? That would be really great just to start.
So the word that comes to mind is empowering.
Love that.
Every meeting I've had has had an element of empowerment to it. Empowerment of people. Empowerment of communities. The power of the digital transformation. Because we talk about it in technical terms, everyone's an expert in some way, shape, or form. But we forget how it lands with people in communities who need it most, who need the opportunities that are unlocked through digitization and connectivity. And we talk about it, academic experts, and it's this and it's that, and I think in the back of my mind, well, how is that person in a corner of this country or that country, how's it going to impact their life in terms of unlocking real job opportunities, a small community farm, a single farmer, no mechanization, you grow a little something, you carry it to the marketplace. I mean, Tara can tell you chapter and verse on community pass side, but and I think about, are we actually hitting the ground with what we're doing and what we're talking about? Or is it at 30,000 feet, in nice rooms, Fifth Avenue in New York, you go to the UN, and everybody lives in a bubble. And I've come to find, in public service and beyond, we all live in bubbles. And the real challenge in what we're trying to do with this whole transformation is to pop the bubble. And it's to join arms with each other who are not in that bubble, and to figure out how we can take concept into implementation in some areas that are really ripe for scaling. So on one hand, I wake up and I read the headlines and I think, the world's going to hell in a handbag, what to do. And then I think, well, wait a minute, we've always had conflict, which is really unfortunate. That's human nature, and they have to be managed. And on the other side, I think, but we've never lived in a more hopeful moment where what we're doing, this can do so much in terms of bringing hope. That doesn't matter what language you're speaking. Hope translates into something that is a motivating definition. I can think about it in 2 or 3 different languages, and in all cases, everyone loves to use that word because it gives you a sense of renewal and a sense of purpose and a sense of destiny. And so I say empowerment is present in every meeting I've had, and hope is present in every meeting, because we're all talking about, some of us on the commercial side, some government representatives, on making lives better. Yeah. That's what it's about.
And what an amazing place to be.
Absolutely.
So knowing that the digital piece is obviously playing a big role here, and in some ways, I think, inspiring that hope, and knowing how important it is on the global agenda, there's a lot of players now in the digital space, in the technology space. There's a lot of different policies. There's a lot of different points of view. And so for as ubiquitous as something like technology is, it still feels quite fragmented. And so I would love to hear your thoughts on how do we start to really action tech diplomacy? And what does that mean? How do we power that up so that we can start to transform these incredible visions, this incredible aspiration, this hope that we have into something that really works for everybody?
I think tech transformation is so important and so powerful that every major government entity, like the folks down the road, need to prioritize this. So governments, and I've done this before because I've run a state government, and I've been, I take commands when I'm running embassies in different parts of the world. And the hardest thing to do is to make priorities that are understood and that are implementable. Governments are great at cutting ribbons and convening things, not so good at implementing. I know because I've been there. The private sector, on the other hand, is masterful at implementation because they have to do that. They have to cross the finish line in order to succeed, and that's what their business model is typically built on. So how is it that we take this, this digital diplomacy and make it work? Well, diplomacy is about eradicating silos. That's what you do as a diplomat. You eradicate silos of misunderstanding between cultures and people, and you come to a common understanding around the issues that matter most between the two of us. So taking this wonderfully complex topic and somehow getting it prioritized in multilateral agencies, in bilateral relationships, in companies, in simple and doable ways to prove concept, as we were talking about with Tara a couple of days ago, in Africa with Community Path, proving concept. I'm so optimistic and hopeful about what can be done. But it really comes down to the hardest thing of all. The hardest thing is not developing the technology. It's organizing the execution around public sector, private sector, various geographies, and a multiplicity of partners who make it happen. Because you don't go anywhere without a few things. You need partnerships, you need technology, and you need capacity building. And those are the 3 enablers that come together to make anything like this possible. So you have to give some real thought to, okay, who are the partners? What is the technology? And how do we build capacity to actually make it come to life?
So one of the great examples of that, I think, is mobility. And certainly the coming together, we were actually just speaking about it, but the coming together of different sectors to action that particular plan. So knowing that 70% of the world's population will live in urban areas by 2050, so that's what, 5.7 billion people, I think, if the math is right. Yeah. So 5.7 billion people, it's about 154 Tokyos, 140 Shanghais. That's quite a lot. What then do you think we need to do to, again, sort of power up our ability to use urban mobility as a way to make sure that our cities around the world are working for everybody, and certainly addressing this need? How does that technology start to come to life?
I love transit. I love mobility. And I love Nick because he loves all of that too. And one of the reasons I love it is because I saw it in my own life while governing a state, and I saw the power of people being able to connect with education, healthcare, jobs, activities of various kinds. And when mobility is present, anything's possible. And when we talk about urbanization, this is very real. So anyone who's lived in a big city like Beijing, which I have, and you see the growth of 25 million people connecting to another city down the road of 20 million, Tianjin, connecting with other parts of Shijiazhuang down south, it's like pretty soon you have an overlay of 100 million people in a singular metropolitan unit. I mean, this is unheard of in the world as we know it. And so what are the solutions that are going to keep people going in a safe and progressive kind of environment where people are getting ahead in life? That's a hard part, but with mobility, it is a great enabler. And I think part of what we need to do more, I was just up with one of the ministers from Nigeria talking about this, it's communicating what the benefits are. Because politicians have to communicate to their people why they're doing things and spending money on things. They just can't do it. They got to bring people along with them. That's what elected officials do. They lead. And part of what we can do in the private sector is help political leaders understand the value, the efficacy in transportation systems, in a contactless transportation system, in an open loop system that really does provide opportunity for people. We just think, oh, it's a given. Everybody knows how it operates because we talk about it every day. Well, no, not everybody understands that. Help walk elected officials, politicians through the power of transit and mobility, the role that we play as enablers on the financial side, and what it means to the citizens. Because at the end of the day, politicians want to be popular and they want their citizen support. And it all comes through their ability to communicate their priorities and how they're going to get there. So this is an important one. I can't think of anything more important immediately than transit, getting people from opportunity to opportunity.
And we were just saying, with many of us all living and working in cities, it's very near and dear, particularly this week, trying to get around, right? So it's very easy to understand, but for as easy to understand as it is, it's complicated. And so, your message to all of us is, how do you make it easy to understand, approachable, something that we can break down, that we can accomplish, back to hope and back to that intersection of hope and technology?
It's what fuels every one of us as human beings, no matter where you come from.
100%. 100%. And the change that happens when we are able to actually implement these systems. We literally just use the words life-changing. We were talking about the cable cars in Freetown, and the fact that now we're going down to minutes instead of hours and days to get from one place to another.
I love the mayor from Freetown. She was
incredible.
Talking with her outside, she was explaining to me as if I were one of her citizens.
Yeah.
How this is going to work in the power. I thought, I love you, and I love this. This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And we need more like her who do this kind of thing.
And she also said, and something you were mentioning, she went out to the public and said, tell me, what do you need? What's bothering you? What are the sorts of things that we can work on together? And that became the foundation. And I think we see a lot of that in our conversations here this week, where we're starting to surface what are those things, right? That we can start to really nail down as the objective. What do we want to action? What do we want to work together to take forward in strategic growth?
Yep. Prioritize, prioritize, prioritize. We can only do so many things and so many things well. You'd like to do everything everywhere.
Yes.
And part of what I'm trying to do with a great team is to, okay, what are our priorities? Yeah. What do we want to do? Where do we want to play? And how do we want to do this really well? So the company is known for lifting humanity in ways that otherwise would not occur. We just don't have the bandwidth to do it everywhere, but in some places we can do it exceptionally well.
Yeah.
And you can create a case model, a living, breathing example of success. And I think that's that's kind of the legacy we want to leave, because that then can be scaled by us and others.
And just an amazing place to be. So, Jon, we are at time. I knew it would fly by very quickly. Very last quick question for you. I'm going to give you 3 songs to represent this week. And multiple choice, you can choose which one best represents it so far. So, Come Together, Don't Stop Me Now, or Under Pressure.
I would say Don't Stop Me Now.
Love it. Excellent.
Yeah, that's a good choice, but they're all pretty good. They're all pretty good.
Thank you so much, Jon.
Thank you,
It's been
Jody.
an absolute
Thanks
pleasure.
for all you're doing.